holding developers accountable. And that last, I'll get out of the way and let you listen away.
Can everybody hear me? Yes. All the way to the back, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. All right. So I am the fifth generation on the family property, and you know, I grew up with stories, listening to my grandmother talk about in 1906, watching the carriage barn be built and everybody coming together and walking the sides of the barn up. And this is important land, and this is what New York State politicians forget. We're talking about our land. It matters to all of us. It is deeply important, and people across New York State will oppose and fight to protect the lands. It's not that we don't want solar. It's that solar needs to be sited correctly, appropriately, and it needs to be respectful. Then we can have it as part of the energy equation. It takes up a lot of land. And my favorite slide for Nuclear New York is the one of, this is how much land it takes for one nuclear plant. And this is how much it takes to put in solar of the equivalent megawatts. How many nuclear plants would it take to power New York State?
For the system right now, another 6 of the type that we have.
So we
well,
need
8 would be in the point of closing. Another 8 would
So 10?
displace it. Yeah. I mean, it needs to grow more later too.
So we need about, so let's just say, we'll say 10 to power New York State today. And how many acres is that? Yeah, it's less than 1,000. Yeah, it's less than 1,000 acres. Glen is looking at what, 2,000, 3,000 acres of land
And
going
up.
into solar?
And more.
And more. And that's one town that's going to depend on something that's generated by the weather. Sunshine and breezes power vacations, not states. And that's what we really need to be looking at. And so when the developers show up and make you promises, you have to look at them and really think about it, because developers are responsible to their investor. They are not responsible to your town. They're not responsible to you. They're not responsible to any of the neighbors, and they're not responsible to the environment. They make money. So when we have to sit down and look at these applications, and our volunteer planning boards and our elected officials are required to go through documents, they should also be looking at it. How does this profit our investors? How does it profit our land? How does it profit our town? And when you begin to analyze the documents in that manner, and you have to go through it very systematically, you have to learn a new language, you have to look at site plans, possibly for the first time, and you simply don't know what to look for. You don't know what's missing. And that is the trick. You got to learn what's missing. And I spent a lot of time starting July 11th, 2019. I heard about the project bordering 2,500 feet of my property line 7 days before a public hearing. I went to my town, I requested freedom of information, and I was told by the clerk, she was new, but she looked at me and she had the file in her hand. She had this in her hand. This is what they were going through. I don't know if I'm supposed to give this to you. And I'm like, freedom of information? I gotta go talk to somebody. And I was like, I gotta go talk to somebody too. And so that's how it begins. This is actually, there was a freedom of information request to the town of Waynesburg. What were the documents that you're reviewing to approve 65 acres, 44,000 solar panels? This is what the person was given. This is what they give to your towns and expect you to make a decision. Once it comes to construction and reviewing the building permit, they'll come in with a stack of papers. Like I showed up at a town of Glen meeting, with that big honkin', you know, volume of paperwork. And that's what they show up with for the building, is for the building permit. So what they give you at the beginning and what you end up with at the end don't necessarily match. And because I am old school, I brought you some different applications, because a lot of people don't even know what an application looks like. You know, you don't even know what the documents are that the town needs to review or what the neighbors should be seeing. And so, like, this is an application for a different town, different developer. And I also have a bunch of freedom of information. So what I've learned, I will share with all of you, and it's on my website, so you can actually just go to the website and you'll see it all. And the website is DwaynesburgNeighbors.com. And one of the tabs is How To. And that gives you a list of questions you should ask your town. I think it's close to 300 questions at the moment. And you set it up as a chart, and you begin to fill it in and check it off. And that's how you can begin to hold your town accountable. We want to believe that everybody's doing their job, but at the end of the day, you're dealing with volunteers, you're dealing with people that have families and parents and children and responsibilities. We're dealing with a pandemic. People can't do it by themselves. Our towns need our help. They need us to step up, read the documents, and give them feedback in an organized, methodical fashion. You can't just stand up and go, I don't want that thing next door, it doesn't look good. It's like, no, you need to be able to say, I don't think that this actually supports our zoning ordinance. And our zoning ordinance requires that we protect community character. And this may not protect our community character because it is the industrialization of our lands. And this is how and why. And you begin to submit all the photographs that show that this is industrial development. You begin to submit the noise studies that show that 85 decibels is the sound of the excavator, which is 1,500 feet from my property line, and I can hear it at my property line. So yeah, I'm going to hear that inverter in the middle of the night. You need to be able to know, and it's taken me 3 years to learn this one, the tracking motor itself. The tracking motor on these things, one tracking motor, 70 decibels. The project next to me, 216 tracking motors. These are industrializations of our community. It's not that they don't belong with us, they belong in the right locations with us. So this is what I do. Step one. The developer's job is to make money for their investors, and you need to protect yourselves. So you're going to read every document, you're going to attend every meeting and listen to every single word, and that this is to make the developer's money. Then consider how is the project increasing our community and our taxpayer investment. And you review every single document and you read it with that in your mind. How is it helping us? Because that's what the developers are saying. How does it help our investors? So start thinking like that. Then the next thing you want to do is go buy a drone. And you want to start photographing everything. You want all your property lines. You want to document what this really looks like. Because the developers will submit drawings that omit the neighbors' homes, that omit national wetland, that change the tree line to what they need it to be to fit their program. So document the facts and put the facts on the record. The developers will become very agitated. Be calm, be respectful, and keep talking. Then the second thing you're going to do is submit freedom of information requests to every single entity in New York State. NYSERDA, DEC, Department of Transportation, Historic Preservation. Because what I have learned, and not just on one project, but many, what the developers give to the town is not what they give to the state. Who are they getting what from? And how do they need to get their investors the money that they have promised? So you gather all of that information, you give that to the town. Now the developers are very, very agitated. Keep Be polite and keep going. Third, you're going to go out and buy some notebooks. Head to your local thrift store. Buy all the notebooks you need because it's a lot of paperwork to do this. This is a committed decision to go into documenting a project. But buy the notebooks.
No, that's yours.
Oh, that's mine, yeah, sure. Get the notebooks and start filing all of the freedom of information that you get. Be very systematic and be very organized because the developers will try to stir you up. And it's like, actually, here's the facts, here's the date, this is how it goes, this is what we know, and it's up to our town to make that decision. But we're happy to present the information to our town. And then fourth, go outside, go knock on the doors, talk to all your neighbors. Some of them may not be paying attention. Everybody is overworked right now. They're stressed. They have too much to do. Go say hi. Go, this is what we know. What do you think? What do you know? How would you go about it? And ask them to also attend town meetings. So all of this is all listed in twinsburgneighbors.com under the how-to. And the most important thing, I think, for anybody, because some of the very first documents that the town will receive is something like this. So you'll get a conceptual site plan. This is on the website. It's under how-to, read a site plan. And what I do, and I have people from all over the world that send me their site plans. And I sit down with my red marker and I go through them with great glee at this point. It's taken me a while, but now I enjoy it. And you begin to sit down and you just go through it. And it's, you know, all of these things are not marked. This is a piece of equipment. This piece of equipment is a switchgear. On one of the developers' projects, it's reported to generate 100 decibels. A leaf blower, chainsaw. It's loud. But this isn't a budding piece of land, and it doesn't show the house that's there. Is that house 200 feet? Is it 500 feet? What is that piece of equipment doing to the neighbor? Why isn't the developer putting it there? And should the town consider it? You need to be able to begin to look at these and just begin to mark it out. Here we have some more equipment. It's not labeled, it doesn't have dimensions, it doesn't have a decibel rating. You have no idea how tall it is. This information isn't given to your towns unless they begin to ask for it, unless the citizens ask for it. And so when you get something like this and the developer's like, you know, we're going to use sheep and it's going to be great. There's birds, there's butterflies. We've got pollinators galore. You're going to love it. We do tours with the school children. They need to learn all about how to do this. And that is marketing. That has nothing to do with what is going to happen to the town, because that isn't in the law. And that's what the developer will do down the road. So construction begins. And the town goes, hey, you know, what's up with that pollinator plan? Where are the sheep coming from? How are the sheep going to get here? That's not part of the law. And that's exactly what your town's going to do. Be silent, because you know it isn't part of the law. And unless it was written really strongly into the contract, your town's just going to sit there and go, yeah, well, we're screwed, because it's not. And all those pretty postcards with the sheep and the butterflies, it doesn't matter. Is it part of the law? Is it in the formal contract? Because once you get down to some of this, there's little tiny print. And one of the documents I've read, and this is a developer that promises, God, birds and butterflies, sheep. And it says 1 acre of pollinator seed outside the fence, weather permitting. It's like, you know, the developers are responsible to their investor. Always read the documents with a keen, keen eye. How are they making money, and how can the town profit from this project? How can the town not get penalized? Some of my other favorite ones, let me see. Plus, everything is redacted. These are just, you'll see this on any site plan for any projects, any developer. They use the same sort of system. Some are better than others, some are worse than others. This is for educational purposes. This is not picking on any specific project or engineer. It's how they make money. It's their job to make money. And another thing, one of my favorites, is how fast are the projects sold. Because, you know, one set of developers comes in, here, we got this great project, you're gonna love it, it's great, all this, you know, hurry up, we have to get it done. And then you find out that the project's been sold within 2 months. So you're not even dealing with the same person that came forward. By the time construction happens, you might be onto your third owner. And by the time construction's done, you might be onto the fourth. You have to have your documents for the town, for the protection of the neighbors. It really has to have very strong language as to how many days they have before they have to notify you. How are you being notified? Why are you being notified? Because when it comes right down to it, if there is a problem, if battery storage explodes and there is a catastrophic accident, who are you going to call? Are you going to sit around, you know, well, 6 months ago it was so-and-so. Who is it now? The other thing to look out for is bonds. The decommissioning funds, they may issue a bond for it, and you need to be able to track that bond. Bonds are sold. Who owns it? Who's got that bond at the time that you need that money? Does anybody really know? Do you have time to figure it out? So I guess the takeaway is really pay attention. Understand the developer is responsible to the investor. Not your town, not the environment. Read it with a keen eye. Hold them accountable every step of the way. Because every single inch, they're going to take a mile. Make sure it works for you. Make sure it works for your town. Make sure they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And that leads me to questions. Yes?
You said the town and the state give different information. How can we foil the state as well?
Yes, yes. So you FOIL your town. Do freedom of information against the town, the county, and the state. Department of Environmental Conservation. NYSERDA, Department of Transportation, State Office of Historical Preservation. On my website, under How To, there is a section, How to Freedom of Information. It gives you the email address for every single agency. It may take, they have legally 5 days to confirm that they have received it. If they do not do that, you file an appeal with the state, because your towns may not answer, repeatedly not answer. And you have to send an appeal, and once they have confirmed that, they have 20 days to get information to you. Yes?
Have you had the opportunity to enter into a host community benefit agreement yet for the developer? And, you know, that actually embodies their promises to the towns, and what would you put in to make sure you have good enforcement mechanisms?
I would take, you know, I would take it to, if my town had been provided such a thing, I would take it to at least 3 attorneys. It's a new frontier, you know, and everybody has a little bit of a different eye for what it should or should not be. Typically, the developers will enter into a payment in lieu of taxes agreement, of which I think assessors know much more about than I do. I do know that no one, you know, your town, your school, they shouldn't be signing that document until, like, do it at the time of construction. There's no reason to sign a pilot ahead of time. Nothing's happening with the taxes. It can sit there and wait, because once you begin to sign legal documents, then you're legally bound. It sets in motion. It sets a timeline for things. You know, projects can be approved. My project was approved in 2019. Just started construction. And I think if the town had waited, perhaps they would have negotiated differently down the road, because now we've learned from our neighbors. We've learned from other towns and communities how to do it. So, yeah, my advice to a town is like, hold off on the legal documents and get 3 outside attorneys. And I do believe in many towns and counties, you can require the developer, the applicant, to submit the escrow to hire those attorneys. That would have to be looked into, but it's a question worth asking. Our towns don't have the money. Across rural New York State, our towns don't have the money to do this. They need to have other avenues and options. The state mandated projects, you have intervenor funds if you can get a hold of them.
I'll just put in on that, our final group tonight is going to be from the town of Glen, who's actually gone through a lot of these steps, and they may be able to
They know more.
talk a little bit more about pilots and about the solar law and the contract. So, that will be a panel, and hopefully you'll all stay around for that. So I
Okay.
didn't want to interrupt, but
Are we
there were
keeping on
questions
time?
for Lynn. No, I think you're really good on time, actually.
Okay. If there are questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I'll have the site plans, like I'll have actual documents over in the back. But again, most everything I've spoken about and these, they're all up on the internet. You know, print it out, look at it in comparison to what the developers are giving to you, and start asking those questions and set up a spreadsheet. Like the spreadsheet for the project next to my house is 87 pages. But, you know, I like research.
I guess I just have one question. So I know, like the project next to you has been, outside of the 94C process, so the town actually does have more authority than perhaps otherwise. Can you say something about how the things you do might change if it was a 94C project?
94C projects, because those are more new, you know, the Article 10 projects were great because there was a open, what do you call the DMM?
It's the document master management.
Okay, so there's a case file for the project within Article 10, and every single document is there. It's chronological order. If you're interested, you can actually follow the progress, and you can submit comments on the record. The Section 94Cs at this time, they appear a little less translucent. It's much more difficult to get some of the information, and it's also my understanding that within 12 months, those projects are approved no matter what. They can just be rubber
They have
stamped.
to decide in 12 months. They don't necessarily have to approve them in 12 months.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. So there's that aspect of it, and then the smaller projects under 20 megawatts, those are through the towns. So are they good at keeping records? You know, a lot of towns don't have the time, and it's not organized. There's pros and cons to all of it, and there's a way to do solar right. And the problem to me really is that I do believe there's a way to do it right, but there's so many bad apples in NYSERDA's barrel doing it wrong.
There are more protections in the 94C because a lot of it's been written down publicly.
Uh-huh.
And there's a whole office that their job is just to validate the applications, whether or not they meet. So all the stuff that you're doing, theoretically, they're supposed to do for you. Whether or not they're going to do it, we'll see, because as you say, it's new. But there are more rules, and there are bureaucrats that do it. So at the very least, you can try to make that thing better,
Yeah.
versus forcing every town that's busy with more important stuff to become experts like you. You know?
Yeah. Thank you. I think you're up after me, aren't you?
That's what I was about to say,
Yes.
yeah. He's nipping at the bud trying to.
You're up next, buddy.
This
Yeah.
presentation, yeah, so.
This is not a question, this is a comment. When we formed our group in 2020, Lynn had already been going through this for a while. And I can't begin to thank her on behalf of GlenFARMland, because you made a big difference by sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it really is neighbors helping neighbors, you know, because the developers are skilled and they've got money and they have the legal teams. 25 projects through New York State, and even though they've been corrected time and time again, I watched them go into the next town with the same game. And it's like, when is NYSERDA going to hold them accountable? How many millions upon millions, and I'm talking over 150, will go to this developer, even though they're not upholding a code of conduct? It's frustrating. It's a train wreck I can't stop watching.
Oh dear, oh dear.
But it's, you know, it's hard to watch all these towns again and again and again and again. And it's not just one developer. They all have a system. It makes money. It makes money.
Just to pivot on that, is there a particular case study of a specific town or county that has successfully resisted a solar farm project that you would point to as something to use as a model?
There was one person that came to me from the capital region, asked me to review the site plan and attend a meeting, of which of course I did because it fascinates me. And I had to contact her afterwards and go, you know, your town's doing the best they can, and I really haven't seen a town do a better job. And I spoke with her a year after the project was constructed, and I said, how's it going? And she said, you know, you're not going to believe it, but, you know, that landowner and I, we're good friends now. So it can be done. Like, that was an interesting case study, but that's a very small developer. It was one 5-megawatt plant. I think he's got a couple of them scattered around, but he's not taking money from NYSERDA. He's just doing his job, making some money, not seeking the incentives. Schoharie County is interesting in that their county legislature, so the supervisors from all the towns, they came together and said, you know, if one of our towns ends up getting sued, we're all pitching money in because we think it's the right thing to do for our county. And that county really has learned from the couple of projects that have gone in. And they're really stepping forward in a unified front as a county saying, nope, this is what we're doing. And one of the towns that was denied a special use permit for 5-megawatt solar, and the developer sued them, and the courts upheld that case, and the developer is appealing. You know, so quite frankly, as far as I've seen, the one person that makes the most money off of this is the attorney.
That's always good.
Yeah, and as somebody else pointed out to me, well, Lynn, you know there's a reason for dead attorney jokes. Okay, what's an attorney? Like, yeah, I'm learning. Anything else? Yeah?
What's your website?
Dwaynesburg, DUANESBURG, neighbors.com.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
I was waiting for quite a while. There was a group called Nexium.
Yeah.
I kept the information and I wanted more information. But I waited months and months before I required more information. But just recently, I signed up with them, and it said about, I would save like 10% on my national grid bill, and this solar panels that they had on a solar farm. It wouldn't cost me anything, nothing on my roof or anything. And after a while, I thought it was a good deal. And in fact, I still think it is. I didn't get any credits yet. It's going to go on. Then you'll get a separate bill from them.
Yep.
But I mean, down the road, people are worried about 2040, 2030. We're going to have a changeover with our homes because they're going to do, the governor we have wants to do away with natural gas. So we're going to have to go to the heat pumps, which is, you're supposed to get credits for that, but it's going to cost probably about $35,000 after the credits. It's going to cost us $20,000 probably up front.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't going to have the $20,000. But you know that an electric bill, you can, with LED bulbs and things, you can control your home. You can get insulation, more insulation and things to help out on it. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that the solar farms are that bad. It's their problem to get rid of the panels in the future, there's a lot of things in Montgomery County gets thrown in our landfills that don't have to be. We don't have the money to send plastics to other areas that can make the plastics into other products or something. So that's the problem we have with that. But I mean, so far I don't see anything wrong with the solar farms. I saw the stories about the windmills. That too is getting into our landfills. But that's, you know, to me that's got nothing to do with me. I think they're kind of ugly. But when I see the solar farms, I didn't think it was so bad. They seem to make them in a, you know, in a nice organized type of an area. And if you own property and you're not doing that well with that property, and you want to rent or sell it to somebody else, that's up to you. Nobody else should get involved in that. That's up to you.
But there are some laws within each town. So each town's going to have some solar laws, and frequently, like one of the things in the law will be that it's required to have evergreen screening. So the neighbors, say this gentleman sitting right next to you in the brown shirt, say he's living right next to one of NextAmp's solar plants, all right? Let's just say.
Purely hypothetically.
Purely hypothetical. And there's absolutely no vegetative screening. So this gentleman opens up his front door with a cup of coffee that morning and looks 100 feet across his driveway. And there's 14.5 feet tall solar panels. There's 53 feet, containers that are 9.5 feet tall, right across from his view. So I think that the solar laws should be upheld, and NextAmp should be required to put in the vegetative screening. Would you like to be able to walk out your door and see that? Or would you like the solar law also to protect you?
Yeah, it's got to be good for everybody.
And
but I think that, like it says, I mean, if you got land and you want to either sell it or rent it because you're not doing all that well,
yeah,
that's up to you. But I mean, it's I myself don't think it's that bad after doing my homework and getting more information. Sure, a lot of people are concerned, but like I said, you talk about electric vehicles and some of these other things I think are going to be more important than an electric bill, which you can control as it is. You know, I mean, you know, with LED bulbs and stuff, a lot of people are doing that. But I mean, I thought it was a good deal, but after a while, like I said, I was doing my homework. For me, I think solar panels is fine. It's not good on my roof, because if there's a fire or something, that could be a problem. But if you've got areas where you can set that up and it's supposed to benefit the area, and my bill goes down, I'm trying to save money now. I'm not going to worry about it.
and that's my point, is that we just need to hold the developers accountable to the law.
Right.
I'm not saying it's wrong.
I'll get,
I'm just saying hold the developers accountable to the
Steve,
law. That's
he's
all.
got his computer.
I think we're on the same page.
One more
You're
question.
next, so that's gonna be different.
Yeah, that's kind of different, yeah.
Thanks.
You answered all the questions.
Yay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Both sides of this up, so